one podcast, mining the Magic the Gathering community for salt. This is the Howling Salt Mine.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
Well, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Howling Salt Mine podcast, the podcast where we delve into those salty mines of the Magic the Gathering community, find the saltiest stories, the saltiest posts that we love, put them in our mine cart, and bring them right back up to you, our dear prospectors at home. As always, I'm your host, Sam, and I'm joined by my two co-hosts, Mike and Tony. Say hey, guys.
What up, what up, what up?
Hello.
Hello? Indeed. And before we go any further, you know we got to shout them out, our nice tier patrons. And this week we have Alex Balix, Cream Bean, Prime Speaker Florian, Dr. Black, Accidental TPK, and ZZ.
Nice.
Thank you for being so nice. We really appreciate it.
Thanks.
Boys, I got another confession to make.
Really?
Yeah.
What is it?
Oh, this is from when he was,
I was
a
salty.
fucking salty bitch in the game.
I was salty.
Oh, I forgot about this.
I have been salty.
Oh my gosh.
And I need to come clean because I was salty.
You were.
You were.
Yeah.
I forgot about this.
Yeah, I was very, very salty, and it was a shameful salt. And honestly, it's good that it's been like a few weeks because I feel better about talking about it. I needed a couple weeks to cool off. That was the saltiest I've been. That was the saltiest I've been in years.
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah.
That was like the biggest salty
Yeah, and yet
outburst I've ever
it
had.
felt so, not normal, but it's like Sam's
Just like old times.
Yeah, reminiscent.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
just like a well-worn shoe, you know? It's like putting on your favorite
and
jeans.
I was like,
know.
oh, there it is.
It was one of those moments where I was like, maybe I should remind Sam to employ some of his salt reducing tactics, like have his token out that says don't be salty and stuff. But it's also the equivalent of being like, why don't you calm down when someone's really angry, which you just cannot do.
Yeah, you can't do that. Yeah, it was pretty bad. So should I lay?
Yeah, give us the breakdown. Okay. Give us the breakdown on what happened.
So we're all we're all at my house.
I'm gonna have to chime in too to correct the record.
I know. We're all at my house. And
for our first session of Magic in a long time.
Yeah, our first in-person session of Magic
since paternity,
since I had my
baby time.
And
also just first time playing Magic, right? Like we hadn't played
I've never played Magic before that day.
Oh my God, you're such a
ever.
Yeah. Sorry, what are you saying, Tony? You sound like a fucking idiot.
You hadn't even been playing. You hadn't even been playing spell table games or anything. This was just like you had taken a month off of playing Magic, not just like
exactly
playing in person or anything.
which is interesting because the day was fraught with misplays. I think the first CDH game we had, Tony very clearly had opposition agent mana up, and I had Evelyn strapped to my chest for this game. And
I looked at you. I was like, I've got two mana.
I think we made a joke about it.
We did.
Yeah. We had
were
made
all
a joke about
look at that mana,
wow,
two
dark rid and a
No, it was like two.
Oh, it was a mana crypt. I think it was a mana crypt. It was a mana crypt in a swamp. R.I.P. mana crypt.
Yeah, rest in peace. Rest in piss. And it was like it was like so obvious. And we were like, ha, what could Tony be playing? And then on my turn, I was just like, okay, I'll do like a Sylvan Tutor. And Tony was like, come on, man.
No one wanted it to go like this.
Why did you do that? And I was like,
you're like, you don't have to do it. I was like, yes, I do.
Yeah, you really did. You really did. And I was like,
all right.
I was just like, okay, well, yeah, I haven't played Magic in a month, and I don't know. I'm also have a baby on me. My head's not in the right spot.
Yeah.
So that's how it started. Of course, Tony got a Dockside. Rest in piss.
Oh my God.
And then on his turn, played two Docksides and still didn't win. So just let the record reflect that before we get into the rest of the games.
A day fraught with misplays.
Yeah.
And not all Sam.
See, Tony, you don't even need those cards in your deck, man. You can't even.
You can't win even with them.
Tony's so mad. Okay. So then we play a couple CDH games. The second CDH game is a fucking grind.
Yeah.
That was the one where Mike and I played mono-y-mono for an hour after Tony and Nick got kicked out. And like our lunch was here, and that was also fraught with misplays.
That was the game we came out of, and we were like, what if we set a 90-minute time limit for our normal
for our
CEH games as if it were a tournament, just so that we can play other games?
I would have taken the draw at that point.
I would have too, but neither of us in the moment was going to be willing to.
Yeah,
because we were both going to win.
Yeah, exactly. We still had to play it.
So we had to play it out. Yeah.
I mean, I almost won like 4 fucking times in that game.
But then you lost.
Kept, like,
Yeah, you did lose though.
Yeah,
You did lose though.
right. It's almost like when someone interacts with you,
all right, you guys suck.
kind of stops
Yeah,
your
it's-
ability.
it's-
to
it's
win.
kinda
fucking
interesting.
salt.
Actually, I think that's a pretty good summary of the day. So, what's salt, Tony? Well, it's frustration in the game. so, anyways, we move on to this casual game, and I had, earlier this year, like I don't even fucking remember when, it was so long ago, I had retuned my Abdel Adrian deck.
Yes.
And like rebuilt it to be more of like an aggressive combo deck. And the thing with Abdel Adrian combos is like the whole strategy with Abdel Adrian is he's sort of a World Gorger Dragon for non-land permanents. And you want to stack his ETB with another ETB that's going to like flicker him.
Yeah,
so,
like a Restoration Angel is a great example.
yeah, Restoration Angel is like a perfect example of that. So like the whole concept is that you are exiling the Restoration Angel with Abdel's ETB, and then the last thing you do is you have Abdel exile, and that brings back the Restoration Angel, and you can just kind of layer those, and it loops over and over and over and over again.
Right. So when the Restoration Angel trigger resolves, it's the bottom thing on the stack.
Yep.
Everything is under Abdel at that point. It's all exiled under Abdel. Abdel leaves and comes back. So Abdel, the Restoration Angel, and all your other permanents come into play at that same time, and you get to restack those triggers with, again, Restoration Angel being on the bottom, resolving last, and resetting that whole loop.
Sounds like you've done some research since the game that we played.
Well, so it's a very interesting thing in hindsight because we'll get into it. One of the things that you sometimes need to trigger this combo with is like a flicker spell, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like one of those 1 mana flickers, like Ephemerate or some shit like that, because you get to this point where Abdel is like fully loaded up with all these creatures under him, and then you need to flicker him so everything comes back in, and then you can start to stack the ETBs.
Right. The key part is making sure that like your Restoration Angel and your Abdel enter the battlefield at the same time.
Yes. Yep. So we're playing, and I get a setup where I have Abdel Adrian, Leonin Relic Warder, and like a couple other things.
Fiend Hunter.
Was it Fiend Hunter? Okay, yeah, it was Fiend Hunter. And then something that let me venture through the dungeon. One of the ways that the deck wins is like infinite ventures through the dungeon, and you get that one that like beams somebody for 5 damage, and you just do that infinitely.
Mm-hmm.
So I have these cards, and I have the Ephemerate in my hand, so I get everything loaded up under Abdel, and I'm like, fuck yeah, I have it right now. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this loop with Fiend Hunter and Abdel Adrian, and I'm going to Ephemerate to get it going. Again, it's very funny in hindsight. I'll get it. I'll get to it in a minute. But you'll notice that this wasn't a Restoration Angel.
It's a Fiend Hunter.
It's a Fiend Hunter. And Fiend Hunter, has like an ETB where it exiles something, and then a LTB, a whole separate trigger where that thing comes back in.
Right. It leaves the battlefield.
So I have this set up, or I go to Ephemerate Abdel, and I'm like, I think that's it. Like, I think I win.
Yeah, you say, and I win?
Yeah, I said, and I win? Like, any interaction, any responses? So Mike and Nick correctly are like, you got to play it out, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. So I'm trying to like work through the layers in my head. And this is where I get like super, super frazzled. And I'm trying to figure out the layers.
And we are a little
guys
bit
are egging
shitting
me
on
on.
you.
You
You're
guys
like,
are
come
egging-
on, do it. Because we all want Sam to commit to, quote, like the wrong line.
Exactly.
So that he fucks up and we get to keep playing. And we get to be point and laugh.
So that's exactly what happened.
But I also thought, like, I at one point say something like, if you're gonna play it, like you have to be able to pass the quiz.
Yeah.
like if you're going to do the like you got to be. It's a one check. I was like, it's true, false, or something.
Yeah, it's literally
like you either stack the triggers this way or that way.
Yeah, you either do it one way or the other way, and it either combos off or it doesn't.
Yeah.
Well, so I stack it wrong, and again, put a pin in that for a minute. We'll come back to that.
You actually stack it right if it was a Restoration Angel.
Yes. Okay. Then take the pin out. We're just going to talk about it right now.
I was saying it wasn't a Restoration Angel, so it wasn't right.
Yeah. Abdel Adrian can't win with this combo. Like, there's no way I could have sequenced it to win, which I think is the interesting thing. Because in the moment, I thought that I had fucked it up and that I just like totally ruined my my combo.
Like
and
a
like
sure
love the
win
combo.
became a fucked win.
A sure win became a fucked win, and I was like under the pressure.
Non-win, not a fucked win.
Yeah, a non-win. Yeah, like your ob nixilis wins that you were talking about earlier.
Fucking good.
I mean, I almost won, except I didn't, you know. So it was just, I was so tense. It was like I can't fucking do it. Like, it was just for the performance anxiety of it all.
Yeah.
And you guys are like egging me on, and I fucked it up. And you guys were like, okay, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. And I was like, yeah, I think that's how it is. And you're like, cool. Abdul's fucking exiled. You fucking idiot. And I was like, no. I was like, all right, fuck. I fucking scoop. And I fucking scooped up all my cards, man. Because I was just so full of the shame of fucking up the combo, which again, it wasn't even a winning combo. But the shame of fucking up the combo, of like blowing my whole hand on trying to like get this thing done.
Yeah.
Because I think I did an ephemerate spell and I fucked it up, and then I did another one to try to like redo
recover.
it. And again, there's no way it would have won.
Yes.
Because that's just not how Fiend Hunter works. So yeah, just super unfamiliar with my deck. So anyways, I scoop. I'm like, I'm fucking out of here. Like, this fucking sucks. I'm full of like shame and masking it with anger. I like walk away. Tony's filling up his water bottle at the time, and we're all just like cracking up. Nick is so disappointed. He's like, come back. Come on. I was like, you guys enjoy your fucking
Nick was
3-player
like,
game.
Nick was like, we'll play one casual game and then we'll get back to some CDH. So this was going to be like our one really good casual game. And then Sam,
Such a horrible
like Nick was on a new commander, like a fun deck, and then Sam's like,
turn-
lose, I'm out.
Yeah, turn 3, I was like, I fucked up my fucking combo. I'm out of here.
And also not like
you guys don't even want me to play it. This is my Christmas my Christmas gift deck.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, because this was on one I built for Sam, and
Yeah.
Sam's like, I'm taking this apart.
Yeah.
I'm never playing this again.
I was like,
and then I'm like,
you just want to shame me about the deck that you made for me, you fucking piece of shit? Is that why you made it, so I could fuck it up and you could laugh at me? I'm never gonna play this in front of you ever again. I hope you enjoyed seeing it the last time, because it's fucking going away. I'm taking this deck apart right now. Like that was basically the direct quote. And Tony is like cracking up, and he's filling his water bottle in my fridge, and from like I don't know, one of those like Brita filter things, and like he's just like totally inconsolable, cracking up, and steps away, and the water bottle like falls out of the fridge and water goes everywhere. So it's just chaos. It's chaos. Nick is like, come on, man, like come back. Mike is like, Mike's feeling bad, which is good, because that was my whole point. That's what I was going for in the moment. Was like, well, now I got to make you guys feel bad, and then I'm just like a sulky, sullen bastard limping away from this table for a while. I was deep in the salt.
Yeah.
For a while, man. Whew. Yeah, that was
I
fucking
don't even
salty.
remember what happened. Did we just end that game?
Yes.
Yeah, you guys.
And we
we
just
just
played
did it.
another casual
Yeah,
game. We just
Yeah.
shuffled that up and we played another casual game.
we played a different casual game, but holy shit, that was the saltiest I've been in a while, man.
Yeah.
And it was funny because like I didn't even realize until later that the fucking Fiend Hunter doesn't even work.
Yeah. And that was
That's the worst
actually
part,
instrumental in like you calming down a little bit.
It literally was.
Because you got to a point where you're like, oh, I'm not stupid in the moment. I'm stupid in advance of in the moment. Like it was never going to work. I didn't just fuck it up specifically then.
Exactly. It was the shame of missequencing my own winning combo and losing the win, coupled with the ridicule of my peers that caused me to like just totally dunk and walk away from that game. The fact that later on when we talked about it, I was like, okay, Fiend Hunter doesn't even work this way. Like that makes me feel way better. Because now it's just a misplay. It's not like I mispiloted the deck and the win was there and I fucked it up in the sequencing. Like the win was just never there.
Yeah.
And that does make me feel better to be stupid in that way.
Yeah.
Versus fucking up my combo.
The funny thing is, like the turn beforehand, I gave you a scheming symmetry. I don't remember what you got with it, but like,
Well, yeah. I got an ephemerate.
Yeah, the
okay,
ephemerate.
that was the
Yep. Or actually, I might have gotten a counterspell. Because in my mind, I was like, I have the win. I'll just protect the win.
Let's go for it.
Because you were on Rafine or something like that, Tony?
Whatchamacallit? Frodo.
Frodo, yeah. I don't know. I guess you had a blue deck. I was worried about some amount of interaction because it is a very fragile combo. So I was like, okay, let me get a counterspell, and then I'll have like 2 ephemerates to play through this, and the counterspell is backup. The win is easy. Super easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
that
it was funny
fucking
too, because
awful,
when you
man.
went for it and when we were initially like, show us, like
Yeah.
I was saying that because I thought you were going to. I didn't know that you had done
Yeah.
it wrong either. I thought you were about to actually step through it and show us. And like,
Yeah.
I was like, show us because I wanted you to actually do it,
in
not
fairness-
because I wanted you to mess up. Like I thought you had it, and I wanted you to just follow through with that and like us have a satisfying resolution to the game. And
Yeah.
instead, it was
we
like,
were all in
just
different
show us
places
you have
because
it.
I just didn't give a shit, and I was like putting my permanents in my thing. I was like, okay, it's over. And then Nick was like, wait, what? He's like, you can't just be like, I won and go. He's like,
Yeah,
you have to
he was
show
correct.
us. And
He's correct.
And
Yeah.
he was correct.
Yeah, he's correct about that. But it's funny because I think we all thought it was a winning combo that got missequenced. And then later on, it was like, oh, yeah, Fiend Hunter doesn't do that.
Yeah.
And the whole reason
Fiend Hunter exactly does the opposite in the
literally.
deck.
Yeah. Yeah. Like Fiend Hunter makes it so Abdel goes away. And then because Fiend Hunter comes back in, it's a new object. It like doesn't.
Yeah,
bring
you
it
make
back
sure
in,
you make
like,
sure the
it's all
Fiend
fucked up.
Hunter enter the battlefield resolves after the leave the battlefield. So
Yeah.
the thing you exile has no like, oh, this comes back when Fiend Hunter leaves because that leave the battlefield has already triggered.
Yeah.
And then the exile it happens, the enter the battlefield exile thing.
There is a way to win with Fiend Hunter effects. If you have like a Fiend Hunter and an Oblivion Ring,
Yeah.
but you need two. You need
Yeah,
two
you
of those effects so you can stack them and keep Abdel like coming in and out and stuff. But, I'm never going to fucking pull off that combo if I can't even. So, and I forgot that the whole reason why those are in there, I mean, not only is there that corner case combo, but that's pretty unlikely. It's just to permanently exile your opponent's shit.
Yeah.
Like the beauty of being able to stack things with the Fiend Hunter is that you stack like the ETB and the LTB with the Fiend Hunter where I like exile one of your things and then the Fiend Hunter is gone before your thing even gets exiled. So when Fiend Hunter comes back into play, or when Fiend Hunter leaves play or whatever,
Yeah, the
it
thing isn't
never
exiled yet.
releases your creature. Your creature's not even exiled yet.
That version of it already did it before it was even.
Exactly. And then it's just like permanently gone. So you can basically like nuke things and just permanent like consistent removal, which is pretty gross.
Sam in the editing room, the new permanent part doesn't matter very much. It's the stacking that matters a lot.
Okay.
So edit around that.
I probably won't, but but yeah, man, I was so salty and I was so sulky even into the next game. So the next game we played was another casual game.
Yeah. And Sam breaks out his most
I was like, I'm gonna play Agave, and I, as if the fates conspired to really just bring down the mood even more. I got like a Dictate of Erebos in my Agave deck, like turn 5, and I just like dropped it and just kept the board cleared. And I was like, is this the casual game you wanted, Nick? Is this fun?
And then we were like, okay, I think you getting a win in
Yeah.
solved some of your rage. And we played one last casual game that took the rest of the afternoon.
Yeah. After that, I was like,
play Abdel
I was like, I need to play Abdel again. Like I'm over my salt. I've realized that it was just not even going to be a winning combo no matter what. I need to play Abdel one more time and go for it. And I did get the combo off with Abdel. I didn't have an outlet
Because
though.
I
It
was
just
an
infinite
idiot.
draw. Why? What did you do that game? Oh, you played
I played
Rafine.
Rafine and I should have won, and then I drew myself out.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That was so funny.
was great.
That
I
was
was like
such
on a
good
turn
moment,
with like
man.
a bazillion creatures, all these different
Yeah.
things. And
Yeah.
like I should have just won in that moment.
You
and
played Teferi's
instead,
Ageless
I was-
Insight, so it was
Yeah.
doubling up all your draws
Yeah.
and like, all those
popping
connive
off. I had a
triggers.
Bone Miser. I had like all sorts of shit. Like
The Bone Miser was what fucked you.
Yeah.
Because the Bone Miser, as you were conniving and discarding, it was forcing you to draw more.
yeah.
And man, on like end step and stuff too, like there were a few moments where like you got so low
Getting
in
like
your deck.
Get Rocky, where it was like I had to discard, but then I was drawing as a result of discarding. And
Yeah.
like, it was kind of fun. I was like, oh shit.
It was cool. I mean, Shadow Bag. Should put a little bag of holding in there, man.
thinking about it. I just need a fucking Shuffle Titan. That is what I need to
Yeah.
put in that deck.
Literally. Yeah.
If you'll permit me to falsely psychoanalyze a little bit, I do think it's an interesting kind of case study in like, sometimes it's not just like the game that gets you salty. Like
Yeah.
yes, that was definitely like game actions that kind of pissed
Oh,
you
yeah.
off. But like also when you have some of these moments where like, it's been a month since you've played, like maybe higher expectations around like the level of fun that's about to be had in the game is set. And then game 1, you get this misplay. Game 2, you get this misplay. And then game 3, you like fuck yourself with a combo. Like suddenly things don't feel very good anymore.
Yeah. That is very true. Yeah, man. It was just, I don't know. It was just brutal, man. Like it was just just like blowing your wad on something that wasn't even a combo, In hindsight, like that does feel bad. I think it does feel better than fucking up a combo, but like just to like dump my hand and then be like, okay, well, I just fucked up my board state.
The end result of this is that I exiled my commander permanently.
Is that my board state sucks and I'm 2 turns behind everyone. Like, why? I don't even want to play this fucking game anymore.
Yeah. and realistically, I think you thought the triggers were going to work, so you would have left Abdel in exile, which meant you would have permanently exiled Abdel. And not even sent him to the
command. Not even sent him to the command zone. And that's literally how it was.
We were
talking about it.
Yeah.
And you were like, so he's permanently exiled? And I was like, no, wait.
No, wait, I quit.
No, wait, he's not, because I'm fucking done with this game. Because I scoop before he even gets to exile. Fuck this game. Yeah, man, that was so fucking salty. Oh my God. It was a really funny day, though, because like Nick was so grumpy about the CDH games, and he kept just being like, let's play these short casual games. And like that game was like 15 minutes long because I scooped. We were like, wow, yeah, you're right, these are shorter than our CDH games, Nick.
Oh my God. But wait, Sam.
Yeah.
What is salt?
I think we got a pretty demonstration of it right there.
Moving to the next thing. Then read a
contractual
story.
once a month contract obligation.
I think I did a pretty good job of explaining it. Salt is frustration in the game. Anything that could get you frustrated in a game of Magic the Gathering. And we talk about salt so that we can learn from it. And hopefully, I say hopefully, I leave a big wide window open to still be salty in a future game. It's an educational podcast, as we like to say.
Well, should we delve deep into the mind?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm going to pull up my email here and find a random ass story. Oh, this is a long one. Let's do it. So we have a story right here. This one is a submission through our website, our lovely website, thehowlingsaltmine.com or howlingsaltmine.com. And this one comes to us from our friend, the Veterans Spat. And the post is titled, The Rule Lawyer Incident. And the story goes, actually, wow, I'm just reading the first line here. This person lied. This isn't their name. Their name is Mr. B. Mr. B, why you lie to me? Why would you betray my trust, Mr. B? And the post goes, hey, miners, Mr. B here with another story for you. So I was in a pod with 3 annoying people. Not friends, just randoms at the LGS. As of the time of writing this occurred yesterday, Wednesday, August 15th, 2024. Very fresh on my mind. Figured I'd submit another story since I just can't get it out of my head otherwise. Anywho, the players. Me playing Asmarana. Oh my God.
Say it. You got to.
You have to say it now, yeah.
Asmarana Marty Kaistin Koldakar. Huh? No, that's not it.
That's good enough.
Then say it for us, Mike.
I don't have it up in front of me.
You were pretty confident that I was wrong, though.
Yeah, because there was the one part where you mumbled and then tried to not look at us and then looked up at the very end after saying it more fully.
Asmarana Marty Kaida Daistin Koldakar.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
I think it's close. The second player is playing Illuna Mutate. This guy steals my Underworld cookbook later in the game. Third player was playing Belos. And the fourth player, the major annoyance at the table, playing an overtuned Azorius artifact control deck helmed by Urza, Prince of Krug. This is basically the closest my LGS gets to high-powered casual. We all agreed to not use infinite combos before the game, but that's it. Everything else, fair game. I start as I go first. Turn 1, I play Underworld Cookbook.
Should we read some of these cards at the end or before we get into it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, let's do it. Want to read Asmore?
Yeah. So Asmarana Mardikadaistin Koldakar. It is hard. Is a human wizard, 3/3. As long as you've discarded a card this turn, you may pay hybrid black or red to cast this spell. Otherwise, it has no casting cost. When it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a card named the Underworld Cookbook, reveal it, put it into your hand, and then shuffle. You can sacrifice 2 foods. Target creature deals 6 damage to itself. So it has this kind of secret commander of the Underworld Cookbook that's not really secret. It's just like a secondary one that you run in the deck.
Want to read that cookbook?
The Underworld Cookbook is a 1-mana artifact with tap, discard a card, create a food token, and 4, tap it, sacrifice the Underworld Cookbook, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand.
Okay.
I wanted to build this deck when it first came out, but then I realized that Asmaranda, car,
nice.
like, thank you.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it in one.
Got it in one. I thought it would be like Eureka, how you would just cast it for like one hybrid always.
Oh, yeah.
The commander tax still in it.
Yeah, there still is tax.
Dumb.
Yeah.
But it looked like it was going to be like a fun, like a very me style deck. Like sacrifice this thing, get food, do the thing like fucking
20-minute turn.
Yeah. But winning at the end
Take
of it
forever.
most of the time.
Sometimes.
But sometimes at the end, I win.
Yeah.
All right, back to the story. So turn 1, I play Underworld Cookbook, discard a Blazing Root Walla, casting it for its madness cost while making a food token, then playing a Mishra's Bauble and sacrificing it for its effect. My discard engine was online, and I had an attacker on board, but no red mana to pump it. The 4th player kept telling me how my own cards worked on my turn every time I took more than 3 seconds to try to think to make a decision. That's annoying.
Yeah.
The 2nd player was putting all of his stuff in a mess. I couldn't tell where his lands ended, where his permanents began, while player 3 was just silently playing cards nobody had ever seen before, not announcing when he was casting or when things he controlled triggered.
Oh
my God.
These are all annoying players.
Yeah, this is 3
They're
really
all
terrible
annoying for
types of
different
Yeah.
reasons. Like they're hitting the full spectrum
Yeah,
here.
the 3 musketeers of being an annoying opponent.
Yeah.
The 4th player's turn rolls around and they play a Mystic Remora and then explain to everyone how it works, despite the fact that we all knew what it did. Oh boy, here we go with Mr. Know-It-All, trying to tell us things we already know. I began taking my next turn. I tapped my Underworld Cookbook to discard a card to make a food. While I was deciding what card to discard, this fucking annoyance, I kid you not, says this. Underworld Cookbook requires you to discard a card for its effect. I retorted with, I know how to play the game. Thankfully, he shut up. For now. His next turn, he kept over-explaining everything he was doing and was just in general being an ass. My turn rolls around and I look at my hand before I draw a card. He then says, it's your draw step, draw a card. Getting a little annoyed now, I respond again with, I know how to play the game. This time, though, I also looked at him and made it obvious I was getting annoyed with his shit. Apparently, he didn't get the fucking idea, as he was trying to unnecessarily correct me on, quote, mistakes. After about the 4th reminder from this asshole, I come up with an idea to piss him off in turn.
Oh.
We'll see. I knew it was the wrong way to go about it, but if he was going to make me salty, I'll do it back. By this point, I had used Asmore's ability to kill his commander at the end step of each turn he had cast it, and now cost 12 mana. My idea was this devious response. Listen here, okay? I don't like how you're treating me like I'm a kid. I'm an adult, just like you are. Just because I'm younger than you are doesn't mean I am undeserving of dignity. Now either A, shut the fuck up on my turn, or B, I will go out of my way to kill you and make you suffer for every single turn this continues.
Oh boy.
Do you understand? He said that he did, and he told me not to talk to him in that way and that I was being pointlessly hostile. Listen here, you little shit. If you know, I graduated out of my class. The next 4 turns, he attempted to correct me. So on each of my turns that he would correct me, I would swing at him with my increasingly large Sir Ginger and a 3/3 ape. He'd used Pongifying my commander earlier. First it was a 3-1, then it was a 4-2, then it was a 5-3, then a 7-5. After a bit, my Underworld Cookbook was stolen by another player. As I was nearing critical salt levels, I look over at player 2's board, which has not been getting paid attention to see that he was playing an Omniscience without saying anything. I had a counterspell in hand that would have countered it. I do mention that to the others at the table, but everyone ignores me and pretends nothing is wrong, despite the fact that the guy is actively ignoring timing rules. And the guy who's telling me how to play the game, his response? He's not playing like a bitchy 5-year-old, unlike you.
Oh my gosh.
At that point, I was at my limit. Absolutely and without doubt. I scoop on my next turn, made up an excuse of, I have to go, something came up. I usually only say that when I'm at my limit, as I always clear my schedule when I'm playing at the LGS. Thankfully, I got into a fun game afterwards, and that pod dissolved completely shortly after I left. Apparently, player 2 got banned from the store, as he had stolen the commander precon he had upgraded and played that game from another card store. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
As I heard later from the store owner, who found out that he had bragged that he spent less than a pack on this gas. That's a quote. I spent less than a pack on this gas. That one game was the only salty game I had that day, but hear this. I never want to play in a pod with those guys ever. If I ever run into one of them again, this story might get a part 2. Well, thanks, Mr. B. That sounds pretty fucking salty.
Pretty salty. It's an interesting thing to have this Goldilocks zone of play that there is. Because, someone explaining every card they play, playing every Mystic Remora, saying exactly what it does. like pretending, no shade at game nights, but they're like a production. They're putting out like, this is what every card does when they're playing stuff. People take that into the real world and think that that's like how you're supposed to play every card. That's too much. On the other side, this porridge is too cold. The guy playing Omniscience
drops Omniscience,
saying nothing, playing all their cards like no information. That's not enough. Like there is this Goldilocks zone of like when you introduce a game piece, the requirement is that you make sure everyone knows you introduced it. Everyone knows what it is. If you can do that without reading the whole card, you do it without reading the whole card. If you've played a new weird card no one's seen, you're going to need to read the whole card. Like there's this balance there. And not everyone figures that out. And some people like to hear the card read even when they like know it already. So everyone has a different expectation around it too. Specifically that is a piece that like it behooves you to build up some skills to communicate around before you get to a point of annoyance. Like it's okay to tell people like, hey, you can skip reading cards if we all know it. And it's also okay to tell people like, hey, I really need you to read the cards that you're playing because I've never seen those before. Or the other thing you can do is like say, hey, can I read that every time they play one? Take it, refuse to let anyone take game actions while you read it. And people will kind of get the memo that you need to know what the cards are doing there too. So those pieces in specific in the story, super frustrating, but like you will encounter those pieces again. Those are important to have strategies to mitigate.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's very weird that there's somebody doing the extreme version of this, of explaining what they're doing and explaining every single card, even other people's cards, and then somebody who's literally doing nothing. I've encountered people who are on like the do nothing side, and usually it's like there's a conversation at the table happening, and they want to continue their turn, so they're just playing things silently.
So maybe while the two of them were bickering,
like maybe while the two of them were arguing, they're like, okay, well, that's like, awkward. I'm just going to keep playing stuff.
Exactly. And like when this happened to me and I'm playing with a friend, I can be like, whoa. Like, let's stop. What are you doing on your turn? Like, I see you playing things. You got to tell us what you're doing. And like, you know, you can be like, hey, friends, I need you to shut up so I can play my turn. Like that happens to us a fair amount where it's like, all right, shut up, guys. I need to play my fucking cards.
When we play in person, that happens a bunch.
Yeah.
It happens to me. I'm doing a thing, and then all of a sudden I'm like, all right, my turn's over. Like somebody else go. Because I've done things. I'm trying to say it. You guys are heavily engaged in this conversation, and I'm not gonna go back on my whole turn right now. Here are the highlights of what mattered.
But I don't think that you're still saying stuff though. I've never known you to be somebody who's just dropping cards and sequencing things.
My point is
even
that,
when there's
like,
a conversation.
What's happening is that like because two people can be arguing or doing this, that, or the other thing, they don't even know that happened.
Yeah, there is a difference.
I announced everything that I did, and then I passed the turn, and I'm like, you guys just weren't paying attention.
It's a good point. Quick note to the sender of this note here,
Mr. B.
Mr. B. Double check if this person was saying stuff and you just weren't weren't catching it because you were locked in heated debate.
Like it's easy to get lost in the other things when
for sure
frustrating shit like that is happening.
Yeah.
Like if somebody was telling me like that much how to play the game, I would reach a point where I heard them breathe and I'd be like, fuck you.
but like the example I'm talking about, literally this person was saying nothing, like just putting cards down, tapping things, playing their turn out, but like no communication, not even like saying thing under a conversation, you know? So like, that's kind of what I'm imagining here. But like, you're right. There are different like levels of extremes when it comes to that. And sometimes you're just talking over someone. And especially if you're at an LGS and they're strangers and they aren't comfortable being like, hey, can you shut up? Because it's my turn. Like, could you guys stop? Because it's my turn. You know, they're like, well, I'm just going to play my turn. And you know, what better card to not announce you're playing but an Omniscience?
Because then part of the casting cost of all your spells is saying their name, and you don't have to do that part when you have an Omniscience out. You just get to put things into play.
You just get to do it. Before we really lean into this person who was being like an over-explainer, I do think when it came to this Omniscience and kind of like pointing at them and being like, well, what about this player? They're being shitty. At that point, this was post-outburst to this player. This was post-outburst to this Urza player that was explaining all this shit to you. I don't think you had an ally there anymore. I think one of the other players could just be straight up cheating. And I don't think you had an ally anymore in this Urza player because you two had already had it out. That had passed, you know?
Yeah. What do you guys think about, we've talked about this before, but in this case, trying to use game actions to solve a personal problem.
I mean, I don't think the message comes through. Clearly, the message didn't come through. This Urza player was like, well, you're just acting like a 5-year-old, you know?
Yeah.
Like, they're not seeing the fault in their own actions. They're just seeing that you are overreacting and getting really frustrated and angry.
Right.
And like, I mean, I've been there before. It's hard to communicate with a cool head when you're fucking pissed off. I don't think that's something that you can like expect of somebody realistically in those moments. But at the same time, you're not going to do yourself any favors by being like, well, let me just fucking focus this person down and hope they get the message.
Yeah.
Like it might make you feel better, and maybe that's all you need in the moment.
Yeah, a little.
But I don't think it's ever going to like solve the social problem that's going on, you know?
Sometimes I think you can do it though with just the game actions. When you compound it with like a literal fuck you.
Yeah.
And then add game actions, I think it makes it worse. I think if you just went with game actions and pummeled them a bit and been like, are we cool? Can we stop this now? Is like maybe a different tact that could be taken.
I think you have to like really be explicit with it though. You have to be like kind of thinking out loud. Well, who am I going to attack right now? Well, you have been correcting me constantly and unnecessarily. So I think I'll just swing at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's sort of being like, hey, the way you have been interacting in this game has some ramifications in the game.
Yeah.
But if you don't like draw attention to it, I think sometimes it just passes by people and they don't really realize what's happening, you know?
Or saying it explicitly as a threat like this. Like it sets it up as if you are doing it because you want them to change their behavior.
Yeah.
But you don't. When you're making that statement of like, if you keep doing this, I'm going to attack you every time. You want them to keep doing it so you can attack them every time. Like that's secretly there.
You want
And
revenge
I
now.
feel like it's kind of disingenuous to be like, I really just wanted them to stop. It's like, no, you're done with them and you want to attack them. So now you're justifying it as that's the reason. And it can be that reason, like Sam is saying.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm attacking you because you keep doing this. Okay, great.
Okay, now last part of this. How do you feel about people who correct your game actions? Like, I feel like we've danced around everything.
Yeah.
We've given Mr. B a fair shake here. We've been like, yeah, maybe don't do this in the future. Maybe do that. But at the same time, someone's correcting my fucking actions like that, man. If they're like, hey, you have to draw a card at the beginning of your turn. I'm like, shut the fuck up, dude.
Yeah.
I'm in my fucking upkeep. Shut up. Like, that's crazy, man.
Yeah. The problem is, and I do my absolute best not to, but I am sometimes this player that like nudges someone else and like tries to, I'm not trying to correct people. I'm trying to like remind them of something. I mean, I guess it's correcting people, but like, I'm just trying to, again, kind of be the rules engine for the game and like in a helpful way of being like, hey, did you remember your crypt trigger? I feel like is a classic example where it's like, you want someone to do that. And like, I've been on the other side of that where like, I've just forgotten. So having this reminder is good. It's definitely different when it's like the specifics of the cards that you're playing that you know, but it's a really delicate balance because people do play their cards wrong all the time. Like they do. So you want to have the space to be able to be like, hey, I think you needed to sacrifice a permanent for that or discard a card to pay that cost. Like sometimes people do mess those things up.
I think it's okay to nudge, but when you get to this point where like it's basic things like draw a card at the beginning of your up and things like that. Also, like if it keeps happening and they keep saying like I got it. Like, I'm just marinating over here.
Yes.
That's the post of like stop.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Right. Right.
It should take one of those to be like, okay, yep. You're just cooking. And that's okay.
Yeah.
If you're taking too long to cook, then instead of me telling you another game action to take or do, it should be like, ready to go? Like, what's going on? And like nudge them more in the direction of like, I know you're thinking, but like, think a little bit quicker rather than like, this is the game action you're supposed to take and you're not taking. Yeah. Can you do that, please?
Yeah, there's a subtle difference between you need to discard a card and what card you discarding.
Yeah.
And it's they're still both annoying. But like one gives that person like, hey, I'm acknowledging that you know where you're at. You're discarding a card and I'm encouraging you to take an action.
Yeah, I think that there is, I mean, it's a subtle difference, but there's a massive difference in tone there.
Yeah.
Because one is like, I realize that you're tanking right now and that's fine, but I'm trying to move the game along. And the other one is like, hey, idiot, your card doesn't fucking work that way, you dumb bitch, you know? Like it's like, do you want me to get over there and like play your deck for you, you fucking scrub? That is an incredibly frustrating thing to deal with. And if somebody was doing that to me with every single game action, or not even every single game action, even one game action a turn, even one a turn would be nuts. Yeah. And if they weren't giving that equal attention to the other players at the table, especially if somebody is doing shit and not announcing what the fuck they're doing, then I would be like, why am I the target of the rules lawyering here when there's somebody who's like just playing silently, like going through game actions?
The little age piece in this is really interesting.
Yeah,
like they highlight like, hey, I know I'm younger than you, but like you don't need to infantilize me here. It's just it's interesting because we're all pretty similarly aged in our group. Like we're not
Mike's
a huge. Sure, I'm a baby,
Mike's
but
a little baby boy.
We're not like
he's our sweet little baby boy.
He's our sweet little boy.
but like we're pretty comparable. You know, there's no like 20-year age gap between any of us. But if you're just playing in the game store or at a convention, wherever, in public, that's like not an unheard of thing. Yeah. So you can see why sometimes people would maybe feel like they're in that role of like mentoring or guiding or things like that. But like this is not the way to go about it.
Exactly. Even if that's your intent, that's like misguided goodwill, I guess, in that situation.
Yeah. What do we think about the salt rating here on this one?
Well, clearly it's incredibly fucking salty. I think if there's ever a scenario where somebody has an outburst where they're like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, like that.
And then the other person responding back with like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like, fuck
then
you,
two people are just
baby.
like, omniscience, I win.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree this is high salt. I do think this is one of those stories we've heard that like continues down kind of a spiral of salt.
Yeah.
Like I think there were off ramps here. I think there were some techniques to mitigate a little bit. And they may not have worked. These people may have continued to be shitty and annoying. But I do think there were maybe some worlds where this game goes into a happier path than eye for an eye, making the whole world blind kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think so, too. Yeah. It's wicked high salt for me. I would not want to play another game in that pod.
Something urgent would come up for me.
Yeah, same.
I'd have to go sit at the pod next door.
Oh, I have a doctor's appointment. Wow,
over
my
there.
doctor's playing in a pod right here? That's so convenient.
Oh, also don't steal precons from stores. That's lame.
Yeah.
That's really lame.
What a line, though. Let me find that again. What the fuck
Less
was
than
that
a
line?
pack on this gas.
Less than a pack on this gas. That's that's a cool way of admitting that you have stolen
shit.
something. Spent less than a pack on this gas. Well, are you guys ready for another salty story?
Yeah.
All right, so we got another story right here. This one comes to us from our buddy George, and the post is titled "Salty Confessional: The BM Book." Bowel movement. The bowel movement book?
Bowmaster book?
Oh, the Bowmaster book. Real quick, Mike and I were texting the other day about Sisay and like different upgrades he wanted to do for Sisay. And Mike was like, have you considered
JBM?
Yeah, have you considered JBM? And I was like, Jorkish Bowmasters? You're like Jolly Balloon Man. Like, oh. But like OBM is, I'm like, what the fuck could this be? Jorkish Bowmasters? Anyways.
It's like OBS's Orcish Bow Studio.
All right. And the story goes, forgive me, salt fathers, for I have sinned in the saline ways. I made my salt apparent through and through to the whole table by actively not playing magic at the table and instead malding into the BM book.
Oh boy.
What the fuck is a BM book? Is that going to get explained? Is this something that I don't know about?
Is it just BM? Like bad manners?
Oh, okay. Never mind. We got it. Yeah. I think it's bad manners. I think it's a bad manners book. About half a year ago, I had my salty little baby fit in a casual game with some friends. I was playing Shirai, Shizu's caretaker, on mono black aristocrats. Player 2, Shirai is pretty dope. Player 2 was on a jank pile with Umori the Collector and Slime Against Humanity. Player 3 was on something irrelevant that didn't use the graveyard. And fourth player was on Dr. Madison Lee with Jeskai Artifact Good Stuff. Fuck you, fourth player. This one is for you. I think this is a different type of fuck you, fourth player. We are playing at one of two LGSs we go to with the express aim of just chilling. Most of our deck building trends towards stronger than a precon, but we are a rung or two below trash magic. Usually Dr. Madison Lee is known in our pod for playing closer to trash magic. For example, of course I'll play Blood Moon. It teaches people not to be greedy with their mana.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
When they're on mono red and playing into 2 5-colored decks. On that Halophile day, what does that word mean? Halophile? I don't know. On that Halophile day, I'm jamming Shirai. I'm looking for a relaxed Sunday pod. I've got some nasties in the list, like Grave Pact, but I don't accelerate very hard, and my dorks are small, so I tend to win on turn like 8+. If a nasty pops up, I'm going to keep it in hand unless someone is threatening lethal. Umori has made his slime list this week and has been testing it all day, so he wanted something a little stronger. Dr. Madison Lee has been gradually upgrading the energy precon since it came out and wants to try what he calls a version that can really end a game. On around turn 5, I have Shirai, a shambling gas to sack for treasures, and some kind of paid sack outlet, maybe Dockside Chef. Ooh, wow. I heard that card's banned.
Card's cracked.
It is a good card. I'm trading mana for treasures at each main phase too, and trying to dig for some kind of spout with a free sack outlet in hand. I have a plan, but I'm not threatening lethal for a while. Lee is on the play right before me, smiles, and plays a Stone of Eric and something else. I pause him while Stone is on the stack. Are you sure you want to play that? Oh yeah, what do you think of this? Does a great job shutting down everybody's graveyard. Not everyone's yard. It isn't symmetrical. Even better, Lee says. Pause. Let's read Stone of Eric. E-R-E-C-H.
Stone of Eric is a 1-mana legendary artifact. If a creature an opponent controls would die, exile it instead. And then pay 2, tap it, sacrifice Stone of Eric, exile target player's graveyard, draw a card.
Okay, so it's a Leyline of the Void, but for creatures. Even better, Lee says. I think he may have genuinely not remembered if it was one-sided. The fact that it exiles creatures if they would die is the important part to him, since he's on mostly utility artifacts in this rendition. Umori, being a swell guy, points out that Slime Against Humanity is a sorcery making a creature, and even if Slime Against Humanity went to exile, it wouldn't disrupt his game plan since it counts grave and exile. Player 3 offers that he isn't on a graveyard plan at all, so we've pointed out that this random stacks piece in a casual game is only going to affect me. Lee shrugs and the spell resolves. He passes. I start my turn, and he stops me to see if I missed priority during his declare movement to end step. Love some Shirai shenanigans. No, my dude will get exiled. At least you'll get a treasure. Nope, chimes in Umori. Replacement effect on the dies trigger to gets exiled. Shirai doesn't get a treasure. Oh, never mind. Continue with your turn, says Lee. I draw Grave Pact. Literally useless. I play a land and drop some creatures on the field, probably Cadaver Imp, and pass. I grumble something about stupid random stacks piece, and Lee says, you can just remove the stone. I'm on mono black, I say. Skill issue, they say. I'm fully malding now, so I reach into my backpack and pull out the BM book. At the LGSs we haunt, it's either timed rounds with the Commander League or free play at open tables. It isn't uncommon for the free play LGS to be locked up in pods, so I bring a book in case I need to wait for an open seat. My friends know this is my BM book too. Some players in our league take ungodly amounts of times on their turn, upwards of 15 minutes. If a combo goes on that long or may take more than 5 minutes to resolve their response to something on the stack, I pull out my book and start reading because I'm not going to let you waste my time. When I do that, it's mostly for the bit, and the book goes right back into my backpack as soon as the game starts moving and one person isn't monopolizing game time. This time, a turn cycle goes through with the graveyard hate on board, and when it gets to my turn, I draw Phyrexian Altar. Land, pass, pick up Don Quixote. I tap out my mana because I don't have any responses at instant speed. 2 more turns like this, and I'm making some headway into this chapter. Lee gradually starts asking me for information about my board state and starting to eke out what I have in hand to see if there's a line to get me back into the game. I slide the book down and let him know I've got nothing and bring the pages back up. After something like 5 turns, Umori finds a tear asunder and exiles the stone while Lee is in the command zone. I'm finally back in, but at what cost? The game ends before it gets back to my turn. I pick up my cards and take out the swamp I've been using as a bookmark. Lee sheepishly asks if Don Quixote is any good. My gut reaction takes me. It's a hell of a lot better than this game was. I can tell my salt is harshing the vibe of the table, so I chill out a bit and we chat about where I'm at in the book, the windmill scene. After a snack run and bathroom break, we change decks and the mood is better. The pod continues playing, and eventually we are back to joking around and having fun. In credit of Dr. Madison Lee, the pilot apologizes the next week after ruining my fun. I tell him not to sweat it, but let him know that this is the reason why stacks are my least favorite game pieces. We talk about the difference between Bog and Stone of Eric, Bajuka Bog, and how a shutout is so much more annoying than a wipe. It wasn't that my graveyard got shut down, it's that I was locked out for multiple turns. I apologize for my behavior. I felt righteous for my salt in the moment, but after cooling off, it felt childish. Since then, I bring out the accelerated reader prop less often, and only really for the bit. I feel cleansed, exfoliated by the salt bath. Thank you, Salt Fathers. May your BM books stay ever in your bags. That was a great one, Jordan.
That is
Thank you.
good.
Thank you very much. Oh, man.
I really like the point where he was like, just remove it. And he was like, I'm in black. He's like, skill issue.
Like low key though, it's true.
Yeah.
If your deck folds entirely to a permanent, you should have a card in your deck that removes that permanent.
But like, you can still have the card in your deck that removes the permanent,
not
but it's not in your hand.
100%,
You know, like
100%.
variance is something that always gets lost in the Dies to Doomblade discussion, because so often people are like, oh, Draenith Magistrate, it's not that bad. You just fucking remove it. It's like, yeah, but what if I don't have removal in my hand? It's like, okay, well then you wait 3 turns and do nothing.
Yeah, and
until
try and
you
draw
can.
one.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like what this person's doing every single turn. They're like, can I do something?
No.
Fucking can't. Back to my book. What's Don Quixote doing, you know? Like, I get it. And I agree. I think you got to shore up your weak points and have a plan for it. But, you know, unless you're running tutors and also have those tutors in your hand, you can't tutor for an answer.
No, yeah, 100%.
And like break yourself out. I think at that point, you're better off trying to like make a deal with others and be like, can someone else remove that?
And you
and
crack
like,
that to draw your card, and I'll not hit you with any of my triggers off my shambling gas.
Yeah, or I'll focus down this other player or something.
I thought you were going to say you're better off just going back to the book.
Yeah. Or at least bring a Game Boy, you know? Like, I've definitely done that before.
Because who did win? Was it the player that played the stone that won?
That detail's not provided. We don't know.
It just ended before it got back to
Yeah. Somebody, it was the Slime Against Humanity player removed the Stone of Eric, and, you know, they got back into the game, but it ended before it even really got to them again. So, yeah. So it's just, there is something about like dropping a stacks piece and randomly fucking over one player in a casual game that is like, it's not like bad manners, but I don't think it's good strategy.
Yeah, that's the kind of where
know?
I was headed.
Like, it is rude and it kind of is bad manners. I'm not going to tell anyone to not deck build that way. Build however you want. But from a game strategy perspective, what's the purpose of shutting down one player?
Yeah. Unless that's your biggest threat and you think shutting them down will get you into the game or help you win or something.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
But if it's not your biggest threat, I'm like, maybe you don't need.
Waste of a card, you
Do
know? I think a lot of like graveyard hate can be really polarizing like that. It seems like it either does nothing to your deck or it absolutely fucks you.
Yeah, like completely shuts you down.
Yeah. It's like one or the other, you know?
Well, yeah, because your deck is either all in on trying to do that or it's not. Like,
Yeah.
Generally speaking, right? I mean, when Mike played stupid fucking Yasharn, like, he would play and I was like, cool, I'm done. And I was just like,
And I put that in the command zone.
that was worse. I was like fucking looking at it. It was definitely one of those moments where it came in and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Pay life.
Fucking little
Sacrifice
pig thing, dude?
anything? I can't sacrifice
Plains
anything.
or a forest?
4/4 elemental boar?
But it's that prime thing of exactly what you're saying. Like, yeah, I had some removal in my deck. Probably not actually. But like,
Yeah.
I probably had some removal in my deck. But it's like, if it's not in your hand in the moment, yeah. I've been in many of those scenarios where something like that happens and I'm like, yep, I've got these 4 cards in my hand that aren't getting me out of it.
Yeah.
I can't really do anything. And now I am literally top decking until I get an answer. And if I don't have anything, I'm just passing the turn and I'm barely paying attention anymore.
Also, if your way to dig for an answer involves sacrificing creatures, or if Yasharn is out, it involves sacrificing artifacts or something to dig more for that response, then you're like even more shut out, you know? And again, I think that goes back to like that kind of hand wavy Dies to Doomblade argument that people hear all the time. Like, it is true. You got to remove things, but just doesn't account for all that stuff that is going on to really lock you out with a stacks piece like that.
So the book, if you guys are stacked out, if you're totally out of the game, don't have actions to take, is the book okay?
I'm effectively doing that with my phone.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
like if it's on spell table, just fucking pull up a stream. I'm like, whatever. Do you guys, it is back to me yet?
Yeah, you're like,
Yeah.
it's hot
I'll
tub
come
time.
back.
Yeah.
It's hot tub time.
Glass chairs,
Broke
glass
down.
chairs, okay.
What is that?
Glass chairs. You can make some educated guesses on what the camera angle is.
Oh my God. The internet's a weird place. Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm doing that, but I've definitely done it on my phone enough. I feel like a phone is a more subtle, like, hey, I'm disengaging from the game. Pulling up a whole book and like, raising it in front of your face, like somebody trying to be incognito behind a newspaper in an old movie is like
Honestly, it almost is comical depending upon how you do it. More
Yeah.
so.
Well, that's the point. They
because
say, right?
like
They're
I've been at games where you specifically have like gone your phone or your Game Boy and you literally leave the table, turn on, and we're like, "What are you doing?" You're like, "I'm playing my Game Boy right now."
Yeah, there was
this.
there was back when I was really into Game Boy modding and like the heart of COVID, I think I just had one on my desk at all times. And whenever somebody took a really long turn, I would just take it and like put it under the spell table camera and play like, 2 minutes of Tetris or something. Yeah. And then there was definitely one where we were up in my cabin where
that's the one I'm thinking about.
But I was out of the game at that point. You had like blasted me with Archfiend of Ifnir. And I was like, all right, I'm not going to watch the rest of this game. I'm going to go over here and like fucking do my own thing.
I killed you with Frodo is what happened.
Oh, yeah. But I was out of that game.
All right, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I think you can conduct yourself however you want if you're not.
If you're not in the game anymore.
But
you need to be responsive on your.
Yeah,
exactly.
when it's your turn, you got to draw, play your shit pass.
Yep.
If you have anything that you're trying to interact with, if you're ever going to be like, wait, what happened? Once it's your turn, you can't do that. Like, you have to be engaged to the point that you can have an impact on the game. If you can impact the game, then yeah, I think it's kind of funny to have a bit.
Yeah.
Like pull up your knitting or pull up your book, like whatever it is. Yeah, I think that's kind of funny. Or check your messages.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting move. I mean, I will say though, like, I talked about it at the start. Like sometimes when you're salty and it's not good, it's not right, folks. Everybody learn from this confessional, learn from my confessional at the top of the episode. It's not right. But sometimes the only retribution you have is to make someone feel a little bit guilty for their actions.
Oh, no. No.
Correct.
You can't be advocating.
I'm not advocating. I just put so many caveats before I said that. But it is still something that happens sometimes. And I think the fact that like the turn in the story is interesting, that after a certain point, Dr. Lee is like, hey, like what cards are in your hand? Like, is there any way for you to get back in the game out from under my stacks piece?
Yeah.
Like they are feeling so
bad.
pressured. It's so bad that they're like, how do I get you back in? You know what I mean?
But that's what I think. I think you start looking, if you do want to engage, because the book is funny, it's a fun bit, but it doesn't always feel good. And it does mean that you're not playing like Magic. Like if you still want to be engaged in that game, you do have some options still. And it's to lean into the political part, like we've been saying. Like maybe one of those allies will take something out. Maybe you can strike a deal where if the stone goes away, they'll be, the last person you kill or something, or you won't throw any of your negative triggers at them or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Something like that can go a really long way because the stone has a sacrifice ability.
Literally about to say that.
It's right on it. Pay 2, sacrifice it, exile someone's yard, and draw a card.
It almost makes it funnier that the Dr. Lee player was like, do you have anything in your hand to get back into the game? Like,
I'm
no,
but you have something on the board.
Fucking sack it if you really want me back in the game.
Yeah.
What do we think about the salt rating here on this one?
It's high, man. Like I felt like this earlier in my story. I think there's always a moment where you feel pushed out of a game and you feel like the one person that's not doing something, or like that salt just hits you too hard and you react poorly. And I think it's a high salt in a couple different ways, because I've definitely had those moments where I embarrass myself being salty and feel worse afterwards. It's not like I don't feel saltier afterwards, but I feel like, oh man, like I let like my salt get the better of me, and that's a shitty feeling. Like I feel like this is a funny bit to have the book, but it hits a certain point where it's just too much. Your salt has overtaken the bit. You're not doing it to be funny anymore. You're doing it to make that other person feel shame for the card that they played and kind of sweat under their collar to try to get you back into the game.
Yeah.
And like that doesn't feel good either. So to me, situations like this are very high salt, because I hate being salty but I also hate getting fully stacks out of a fucking game,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think this goes just over the edge of like
funny salt. Like
Yeah.
up to the point the book comes out, it's a funny bit. Up to the point where it goes multiple turns, where the book stays out, like that's when it becomes a little too much. And it's kind of like, you know, you're cooking for you and your friend, and you're like joking that you're gonna dump a bunch of salt on their shit, and you're like, and then you accidentally dump a bunch of salt on both your plates, and you're like, oh, that wasn't as funny as I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, hopefully Don Quixote was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a classic, right?
Yeah. Tilting that windmills.
Yeah. Hit those windmills, baby.
Hit them.
One final one.
Yeah, let's hit another one here. I just want to say that we've picked these randomly today, and all of the stories seem to have a similar thread. Anyways, let's jump into it. This post comes to us from our buddy Mike, and this post is titled, "I'm taking my ball and going home."
This was me. Known strong reactor, me.
It definitely wasn't. I can tell. And the story goes, "Greetings, prospectors. Let me start off with some background. My playgroup is a kitchen table pod consisting of 4 dudes just being guys that have been friends for over 10 years. We just started playing MTG/Commander 6 months ago, 2 of us being Yu-Gi-Oh kids and the other with no TCG experience. Now for the salt. Our last game consisted of a Shalai and Halar deck played by me, a Brokos Mutate Poison deck played by Cuck1, a Sir Conrad the Grim deck played by the Salty King, and a Glunch deck played by Cuck2. Cuck1 and Cuck2 and I were on the ropes with some poison counters, and Salty King was at only 1 after his turn. But he was down to 6 life at this point. On Cuck2's turn, Glunch bestowed me with the 2 +1/+1 counters, and I, in turn, did the Shalai and Halar damage to the Salty King. My friends asked me why, because Cuck1 is tapped out and I have lethal for him on my turn, and Salty King is the next threat, so poison can fuck off right now. This seemed to be accepted at the table, until the Salty King attempted to Swiftfoot Boots his commander, and I had a Swords to Plowshares ready. He was not happy that I removed his commander, so in response, he played Necrotic Hex to wipe the board. But the poison player had 12 creatures. Cuck2 and I tried to explain that he was just handing the win over to Cuck1, the poison player, and he was not having it. My friend and I did what we could to protect ourselves, but we succumbed to the poison when it got back around to Cuck1. So here's where the big salt comes in. Cuck1, I just want to say the poison player. It's too confusing with Cuck1 and Cuck2. The poison player ends his turn after killing Cuck2 and I, and the Salty King immediately fucking scoops. Oh, literally the MTG version of taking my ball and going home. Your podcast has taught me a lot about not being salty, and I did a lot of work to not be a salty little bitch, but this sent me right to the stars. We're all great friends that go way back, so the salt is all very surface level, but this one is going to eat at me forever. Thanks for doing what you guys do. Love the podcast, and please roast my friend, the Salty King." Signed, a Mike that hates the stupid fucking camel.
Yeah, nice. Preach. Fuck yeah. I love that Sam's like, what does that mean? It's like, if you were named Mike, you would fucking know.
The hump day camel.
The hump day camel.
Yeah, you would know.
Yeah.
Kind of like every Tony and fucking Tony.
And Tony the Tiger, yeah.
Yeah.
Is it great? Yeah, it's fucking great. Fucking impressed. Oh my god. Fucking hate people sometimes.
Oh man. All right, let's break down the story. There's a lot of Cuck1 and Cuck2 in there that confused me. So we have everybody kind of on the ropes with poison counters, and the Salty King player, this Conrad the Grim player, only at 1 poison. And then we have some damage that's getting shifted around with Shalai and Halar, kind of questioning why it's not going at the poison player since he's about to win. He's like, well, you know, we got to keep down this person. Then they retaliate. The Salty King plays their commander, tries to put some boots on there, gets Swords to Plowshared. Not happy with getting that attention. They do a Necrotic Hex to wipe the board, which I think Necrotic Hex, is that 6 things?
Yeah, each player sacrifices 6 creatures.
Okay. Okay, and the poison players had 12
creatures, yeah.
So there's just totally fucking fine.
Yeah.
After that, a nice
Like,
asymmetrical board
where I
wipe.
can now just fucking
Swing right
come
in.
hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Brutal. Knocks out those 2, and then they fucking scoop. Okay.
Yeah. This is literally kingmaking.
Yeah.
It is that. Like maybe half an extra step, but essentially just straight up kingmaking.
Yeah. It is just Kingmaking.
I am curious what friend the Salty King is, though, because they mentioned in the beginning that they're like, you know, couple of Yu-Gi-Oh players, somebody who's never played a TCG.
Yeah.
So it's like, have you never played TCG? And so you're just like, man, yeah, I'll scoop. Like,
Yeah.
it means less. You know?
True, actually. It's true. Because I think like the big thing you can do when someone's about to play something bullshit like Necrotic Hex and completely fuck the game for 3 players is like genuinely try to get them to ask what they want to happen.
Yeah.
Because if you can get someone to say, I want to make that player win, it's bullshit, but you can all accept that that's at least on the face what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
If it's a player that doesn't really see what the outcome is and they're just rage playing this board wipe, like sometimes that little bit of like, what is your hoped for outcome question will kind of course correct them to be like, okay, I don't actually want just that player to win right away, so maybe I shouldn't have played this, and they'll get it a little bit.
Or it doubles them down and they're like, yeah, fuck that guy. I want that guy to lose right now.
Yeah.
And I see the path to it. And it's me wiping half.
Which is totally annoying, but it is kind of in their capability. They're able to take those game actions. It just sucks.
It's a frustrating one. Like, what can you do about somebody kingmaking? Like, they got salty that you were focusing them down. And it's just one of those situations where somebody is like, there's a clear threat at the board and it's this poison player, right? And you're like, yeah, but I still need to deal with your shit. If I have lethal to kill the poison player on my turn, then I'm going to direct stuff at other players because I feel like that opponent has already been dealt with. I already know I have resources to allocate in that direction to deal with that problem. So as new problems arise, I'm going to play my instant speed interaction, you know? Your opponent just didn't like to hear that. You know, they just didn't want their shit to get removed. And I think sometimes somebody else can be like, well, we have different targeting priority. You know what I mean? And I think that is something that like a lot of people miss in 4-person commander. And like we do it all the time where it's like, that's not the fucking threat. This other thing's the threat. And it's like, well, you say this all the time.
To you.
Like, you don't know the cards that are in my hand. You don't know the plan that I have. And like, if the plan that I have is to attack the poison player and knock him out, and then I have to deal with you, I'd rather that you don't have a Sir Conrad with fucking hexproof. You know, I would rather you don't have a Sir Conrad at all. So I'm going to fucking source to plowshares, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes you don't like to hear that shit.
I mean, nobody wants to hear it, right?
Yeah. It's just an interesting thing to be like, well, then this game's fucking done. I don't know. I mean, I don't have much of a leg to stand on because I totally did that earlier in my story. But at least it was
like
me.
quick, which is
it was
like
me. I did it.
Yeah, the thing I can respect here is that at least it was like fucking quick. The game was just like over.
Yeah.
Like, those people are dead and he's like, all right, I scoop.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing. Like, the kingmaking is the problem here. I don't think it's the scooping. I think it's the necrotic hex is the kingmaking play here. The scooping is just like, you're just saving a round or two of play where this person doesn't have to attack into you. That's really all you're doing.
Yeah.
You're saying, well, I'm going to lose to the poison player anyways, so I might as well just scoop.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, so I don't think that's necessarily bad. I think it's that you set the poison player up to absolutely win, and then you just rolled over.
Yeah,
which is the bad part.
anytime someone's taking actions not to win but to make you lose, it feels really bad.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And then for them to just be like, and I don't care about the outcome of this game now that you're dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, why did you care about it before I was dead? Like, why didn't you just let my shit live then? If that's how you're gonna react.
What do we think about the salt rating here on this one? I honestly feel like it's kind of low salt,
Yeah.
especially for like a king-making situation. Doesn't feel that crazy. Maybe it's because they're like, I envision them like us to a degree.
Yeah.
And like, probably this person got ragged on enough by his actual pod for doing the kingmaking.
Yeah.
And I don't need to do it for him. We all know it wasn't good. It happened. And like,
This isn't quite that fun salt that you look back on and you're like, oh yeah. But it is like one of those salt moments where your group learns a lot. Your group learns a lot by going through this of like, okay, we can make it through a moment like this and it's not positive really. And we shouldn't go to more extreme situations of like pissing each other off because like it's that little taste of like, oh, this doesn't always go super well when I do stupid shit like this.
Yeah. I mean, kingmaking like this, it's kind of like just throwing a tantrum with game actions. You know, you're sort of like, well, things didn't go my way, so I'm just going to fuck up the whole game for everybody because I don't care anymore.
Yeah, it's a table flip. It's like equivalent to a table flip.
Yeah, exactly.
that is my favorite gift, though.
That guy flipping the table.
Yeah. That Magic
Yes, the Magic the Gathering player. Isn't it Catan player or something?
I think that was staged.
I don't know, but if I
The one
hope
where
it
he
wasn't.
smashes the
I
table?
believe
Yeah,
it's
where
not.
I think there's like a dark history to that
I think
gift.
there is. Yeah, I think that guy is like not a good person or something like that.
Yeah.
I feel like there's.
Are we
Good gift, though.
surprised?
Fair.
Yeah, that's fair. That's very, very fair.
Anyway,
Oh man,
is it that time of the week, Sam?
Tony, I think it is that time of the week.
Oh shit! What time of the week is it?
It's the time of the week that comes every week.
Every motherfucking week, baby. Also, fuck you. Whatchamacallit?
Yes?
Modanon.
Why?
The entire last episode.
I thought it was great. I thought they did a really good job. It was nice to have you in that episode. It's the time of the week that comes every week.
Every motherfucking week, baby.
It's the time of the week where we say, Mike,
Mike.
Yes.
what's the salty card of the week?
The salty card of the week this week is
Stacks, please. Remove the turn before me. Draw 3. Off of my brainstorm cast. Spin, spin, spin. Spin my senses top and I'll show the loop and I will draw my deck. Go, brain freeze. The storm count is quite high. Live 3. Until your deck is gone with your empty hand. Tap all your lands and think about why you remove the high noon early. You're salty.
That's a good
jam.
fucking song.
That's a jam,
It is
actually.
a jam, yeah.
Nice.
It's a jam. We'll see if YouTube blocks that one in all territories. So that was
This isn't like some movie.
Kiss Me by Sixpence, None the Richer, requested by our patron Garbage. Thank you, Garbage.
I feel like somebody's like shopping in my mind.
Yeah, one of those shopping movies.
There's just like a sequence where they're like shopping and this song is playing, I think. I don't fucking know.
Okay.
Anyway.
Like 500 days of summer or something. 100 days of summer. How many
500
days?
days.
How many is 500 days?
500
5
days.
million days or
Is
something.
it like that?
some shit like
Or like
that.
Garden
like
State.
rom-com.
It's like one of those like moody mid 2000s.
Yeah, 1000%.
Maybe rom com, but
You're
slight
like making
tragic
fun of me and now
ending.
you're like, yeah, it is
Yeah.
that.
No, I'm still making fun of you.
Yeah, well, you didn't know. Like, we were each able to come up with an example, and you
Yeah.
were just like one of those.
Whatever, you
know,
guys got there.
just picking up your slack.
the fucking
Well, the salty card of the week this week. The salty card of the week this week is Presence of the Master.
The fuck is that?
I love this card. Sorry, spoiler. It's 3 and a white for an enchantment. Whenever a player plays an enchantment spell, counter it.
Oh, is this the one that has Einstein in the art?
Maybe in an alt art. Let me look it up.
maybe
But
I'm
no,
thinking of a
not
different
the
card.
original one. No.
Okay, never mind. Whenever someone plays an enchantment
Oh yes, the original art does have Einstein. in it.
Okay, hell yeah.
The
I
second,
thought
so the Legends art has Einstein in it. The Urza Saga art does not have Einstein on it,
So good.
or an Einstein-looking guy. I think it's Urza.
It's Einstein.
Is it really
I'm almost
the
positive.
Phil Folio? I mean, it looks a lot like Einstein. Like it is probably Einstein, but it could be Urza.
Oh, let me look.
Here's
it
the
up
art.
on,
Here's the art.
yes, yeah, that's Einstein.
Yeah.
That's Einstein.
Yeah.
So
So,
funny.
what do you guys think about this one? Does this make you
So
salty?
it's whenever. Read it one
Whenever-
more time.
Well, the original text is, while presence of the master is in play, any new enchantments cast are countered. But
Hell
the
yeah.
actual text is, whenever a player plays an enchantment spell, counter it.
I think in most applications, I don't think this card would make me salty because it's hitting like a handful of cards in your average deck. If you're playing an Enchantress deck, fuck this card. Like this is like the Stone of Eric in that story we had earlier. Somebody plays this and most players are slightly affected.
Right.
And then you're like, well, I'm just completely fucked because my whole deck is enchantments. So I don't think this card makes me very salty. It's kind of like an interesting piece of Magic history because it has Einstein on it back when cards were printed with just like real ass people on them.
Face on them.
How do you feel about this one, Tony?
I almost don't know. I feel like I just kind of don't care about it.
Yeah.
Like I've never seen it. I
Yeah.
don't think
Same.
I'm ever going to see it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised it's even on the fucking list. Like,
Well, top 300.
Like, honestly, even still. But yeah, I guess that's the main thing that I think if you put this in a deck, you're putting it in because you plan to abuse it. So I don't like you as like a player, but like the card itself, like doesn't really.
Yeah.
I feel nothing. Like not even an ounce of blood boiling, like nothing. Like normally I'm like, but like I truly feel nothing.
How do you feel about this, Mike?
I think that the main box that this ticks that makes people upset is that it's one of the gotcha cards, right?
Yeah.
It's not a can't cast enchantments. It's enchantments are countered.
Mm-hmm.
And like that always feels terrible. It's like the difference between the two clauses on Lavinia. Like one is can't cast and one is gets countered.
Yeah.
And the gets countered clause just feels so much worse because when you play the spell into it, it's not everyone going, oh, wind it back. It's okay, well, you're dumb. And that's countered. You put it in your graveyard. And that does not feel good.
Yeah.
So I think that's the main piece about it that is like pretty salty. I love this card because this is one of those cards that like I found like perusing through my chaff.
You have one of these?
Because yeah, it's an uncommon from Urza Saga. And it's just like
Yeah.
like I love it because it's one of those, I've said it a million times, simple text with high impact I think is really cool. And this is like a sentence and very high impact, especially if you're playing against people with enchantments, but also because enchantments are one of those types that everyone runs a couple of. Like for the most part, I think most decks probably have somewhere between like 4 and 10 enchantments. So it does hit everybody a little bit, but I like it because it's kind of a little nostalgia piece for me.
Well, where does it sit on the list, Mike?
Wouldn't you like to know, Tony? Why don't you
would.
take a guess for me?
This is like a new fucking list, right?
Yeah, so I mentioned it on the last episode or maybe a couple episodes depending on order, but this is the new list that was published. It's the 2024 order.
Okay.
So it does have some slight shakeups. There's some things that were on the list before that are not now. There's some things that obviously were not on the list that are now. All the numbers are open yet again.
Okay. I'm ready.
Same.
Hit me with them.
Locked in.
275.
257.
Oh, shit.
Tony takes it.
Oh.
It is 242.
Oh. Hey, we're in the
Pretty
right
close.
neighborhood. Yeah.
Close.
Good shit.
Is that higher or lower than the previous year?
Compared to last year, I don't even think it was on here last year.
Well, that was part of what I was going to ask.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't even on here last year.
But then, like, what the fuck happened between last year and this year that it,
True.
like, made it on here?
Yeah, like what are the
Everybody start
commanders
playing
that
it now?
play it?
I mean, there are more enchantment commanders recently. So maybe it was a response to that. Like more creature enchantments that are actually the commander, not just like commander-based, enchantment-based commanders.
I'm trying to find like what decks it gets played in. I'm not really seeing that many. It's in 233 decks.
Yeah, so it's like, might as well be in nothing.
This might be the smallest amount we've ever seen a card in.
Yeah,
a deck.
that is incredibly low.
It's so low, it's not even really giving me like top commanders on EDA Trek. I mean, it looks like it gets played in like maybe a Boromir list and a Sisay. Someone is fucking playing it in a Sisay with like captain list.
Stop Breach.
Yeah.
That's
Anyways, interesting.
it. That wraps it up for the Salty Card of the Week. Thanks for playing.
Well, thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. And thank you to all of our prospectors out there for tuning into another episode of the Howling Salt Mine podcast. You know, we're going to shout out our Salt Packet Plus tier members right now. And this week we have Thoughts Mr. Prime, Rothbox, Sire Speedy, Bobo Fett, Bremstone, Captain Croz, Elgo Fogel, Clearbrook, D. Beeson, Gilgamesh, Doug's Dad, Bark Bark, Pez, Swankub, The Quiet One, and Vok. Thanks for all your support. We really appreciate it. And if you tune in to the Howling Salt Mine every single week, you know we appreciate you. And if you're looking for more of that Howling Salt Mine content, check out our Patreon. Patreon.com/Howling Salt Mine. We have our monthly Extra Salt series. We have our Stray Grain episodes that come up, our little tangents that don't make it into the final cut of every episode. And we also have our Off the Rails show, our occasional series where we just kind of talk about whatever the fuck we want. And it's a really good time. You can also jump into our Discord, hang out with us. We're brewing decks. We have a CDH league going on right now, as you can catch the next one once this one ends. We have a holiday deck exchange coming up. which actually may be in process right now by the time this episode drops. We just have a bunch of fun things in the community. So if you're looking to get more involved with the Howling Salt Mine community and really get to the heart of it, play with us on Patreon game nights, all that kind of fun shit, that's where you're going to do it. Another way that you can support the show is to check out our merchandise, whether you're buying shirts on our Bonfire website, you're buying custom Dragon Shield sleeves off of our website, or you are getting our playmats off of Jank Mats. All of those are going to help support us. Another way that you can really help support us is to give us your salty stories. Email them to us at our Gmail, which is thehowlingsaltmine@gmail.com, or send them to us on our website. We have a great form over there that's very easy to fill out, and you can find that on howlingsaltmine.com or thehowlingsaltmine.com. Both are going to lead you there. Another way that you can support the show is to give us a 5-star review in your favorite podcast app of choice, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. We're also on YouTube now, so if you want to be listening on YouTube, you can do that.
You're on YouTube?
You can definitely do that. You can leave comments on shit too. That's a whole another way that you can do that.
But don't leave mean ones.
Yeah, don't leave mean ones.
Unless they're about Tony.
Yeah, unless they're about Tony.
Because you won't read them.
I'll delete them.
If you write mean ones about Sam, he'll cry. So don't do that.
Yeah, I'll read them all and I'll delete them.
And then remove everything from YouTube.
Exactly. They delete everything from YouTube. Lastly, we got to shout him out. Our buddy Devin Burnett, who lives down in Asheville, North Carolina. As you know, that got smashed by the awful hurricane recently. So if there's any emergency funds out there, that's a great way to support Devin and support the other good people of Asheville who are trying to recover from that awful weather event. And once he's back up tattooing again, hit him up and get a tattoo because he's a really cool guy.
10,000 subscribers are buzzed.
Indeed. Thanks again, everybody. And as always, stay salty. And don't forget to draw an additional card during your draw step.
It's the Howling Salt Mine. The Howling Salt Mine.
Okay, but don't look at that salty card list that's up on the iPad right now.
Oh, I will close it. Hold on.
You fool, I pulled up the 2022 list before I stepped away.
Nadu isn't even on this one. Well, welcome back, everyone.
We're recording it.
Yeah.
I'm not I'm just double checking. Give
Tony.
me the new thing that I
Are we recording?
Yes.
Cool.
Alex. I bit my tongue. Crean Beam, Prime Speaker Florian.
Crean beam, huh?
Yeah.
Fuck.
He's a beam now.
A full beam of cream.
We've already made that joke. We already made this joke in another episode. Yeah.
I made the same mistake, so we're going to
Maybe we gotta say green bean.
Spin your sensei stop and storm off, and then I'll lose the game. Oh, I will fix this in post. I'll do a better job later.
I do know that song.
Yeah.
Was it? It was 242. 242, right?
242.
I still got, whether it was 242 or 142, I still got it.
If it was 142, I'd be fucking shocked.
No,
People are like,
I
this
would
is saltier than Winota. I'd be like, no fucking way. You stupid. This salt system's broken.